Hello and welcome. I am Dave Safirstein with DQ Technologies, and I'm here today to make a presentation to you on our flagship order delivery and tracking solution. Chances are, if you're watching this little video, you are currently an SXE or A+ customer, and you've expressed some interest in looking at ways to perhaps better manage your delivery fleet. Perhaps getting better control of operations, maybe reducing costs or improving service within your delivery organization. So before we get started, let's take a look at the profile of the typical user that's using the order delivery tracking system. Much like you, they're going to own and operate their own fleet of vehicles and drivers that they have to manage in a complex delivery process. Typically, those trucks could be very different in terms of the size and scope. It could be something from a very expensive boom truck all the way back down to an individual automobile delivering parts. What we typically see is we see lots of locations out there where a branch may operate independently on its own with its own fleet of vehicles, designated vehicles that do its deliveries, or it might be a call center type of scenario where calls come into a sales center and then they're distributed appropriately out of the proper branch to use the closest location from a delivery perspective. When I look at what folks do, scheduling comes to mind. Not for every single customer, but certain customers use the product for scheduling. And the way I see it is typically in two different methods. First is where we have a particular day of the week, say Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and maybe a day and time where it's Mondays at 9 and at 2 o'clock we do runs to the north part of the territory out here. What we want to look for is A+ and SXE passing us orders, and we're going to look at what that customer territory is. So if it's ABC Supply calling for material and they're in the north part of the territory, they call on a Tuesday. I want to make sure that order gets scheduled properly into the Wednesday bucket. Perhaps from a scheduling perspective, every day is a different day. So on Monday I might have 200, 300, 400 orders with one set of customers, and on Tuesday it's a completely different set of customers, completely different set of geography. So I'm going to leverage my optimization routine to have the software go out and actually look at those orders and recommend to me based on my fleet, based on the orders, the weight, the volume of the orders, the types of vehicles that I'm needed to make my delivery effort and do it most effectively, most efficiently at the least expensive cost. Perhaps you don't do any scheduling at all, and 99% of everything you do is hotshot based, where the phone rings at 9 o'clock and you're expected to have product out there within the hour or that afternoon. I've got some nice tools for hotshot deliveries where I can share with my staff basically the availability of limited resources. So maybe in my one branch I've only got one boom, and I need to share with my sales staff when that boom is tied up and when it's available. So hotshot deliveries and all the challenges that go with that are handled beautifully with ODT. Returns. Most businesses are high service oriented businesses and they have to schedule returns. So we're looking for credits coming across from A+ and SXE, and we help the dispatcher schedule those. Purchases, the same way. Either stock or special orders where we might send the driver by to save on some freight to go actually pick up product and then maybe take it on to the customer. Same thing with backhauls. Maybe we're doing a long run, and at the end of that run, rather than coming back empty, I want to be able to go by and do a backhaul for somebody and help offset some of that expense. So how do we get there? Well, we start with a fantastic integration between the order delivery tracking system and SXE or A+. So regardless of the transaction type, if it's a sales order, a transfer, a purchase order, let's take the instance of a sales order. I'm going to be pulling over all the key elements that are required to get that order scheduled. The customer's name, the address, where we're sending it, the products that are coming over, their weight, their volume, the price, the cost, everything I need to schedule that order. So what we're doing is we're trying to provide you with a platform, get you away from essentially the grease board and the clipboards or the boxes where all orders are placed in the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday file. We're providing you a platform so that everybody in the organization, regardless of who you are, with the proper authority can get in and have visibility into the entire delivery process. And when I say that, I'm talking about both from an operational standpoint also and from a cost perspective in terms of what it's costing us to serve that individual customer. So let's look at why guys are doing this. Well, besides giving the dispatcher additional tools to get better, we're talking about providing managerial tools out there to get better. Giving management an opportunity to look at how my drivers are doing. You know, what's an average? What's a benchmark, a bellwether for how many orders a driver should be able to deliver? How many trips? What the average number of orders that should go out on a particular delivery should be in my organization. Comparing my branches. Looking at my customers. What's it costing me to serve those customers when I overlay the cost of delivery on top of what the margin was that I made out there. We're also looking to reduce costs out there. So anytime I can provide a tool and I can get away from actually taking an individual order and sending it out by itself and replacing that model where I'm sending 2 or 3 orders out on a trip and still servicing that customer on a timely basis, we're saving money. I'm saving labor, I'm saving fuel and miles driven. And ultimately, the nice thing about that is a byproduct is the product's going to get out there faster. So the customer's going to be happier. We're serving that customer faster. No one likes the situation where you're calling in for service and you're talking to that person on the phone and they don't have a clue where your order is. With ODT, within a couple of seconds and a few mouse clicks, I can key in the customer's name, key in the order number, and I can tell you exactly the status of your order, where it is, how many miles away the guy is from your particular job, your particular location. And finally, from the standpoint of proof of delivery and loss prevention, we use a series of smartphones out there. So rather than having 2, 3, 4 people in a location that are gathering up signed copies of invoices for statements, we can capture signatures on site, proof of delivery. Perhaps you might have a business where you're delivering products after hours or when nobody's on the job site and you need pictures. We have the ability to take pictures and upload those pictures as well. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the concepts and objectives we had in the design of ODT. One of the first things I want to talk to you about is workflow. You know, workflow is one of those things that can be very personal from a company-to-company basis, even within one company. You may have a situation where branch 1 does more retail than branch 2, which is more of a contractor or wholesale-based organization. And the two workflows within those two organizations are very different. You know, in a cash basis, you've got to deal with CODs, returns, things like that. I'm going to take you over and I'm going to show you an example of a workflow that came from an actual customer here. Just to acclimate you to a few things that we're looking at here, I'm looking at a grid that's a delivery and orders grid. And essentially I've got the days of the week across the top. So I've got Wednesday highlighted here, and I'm actually logged into branch 4 looking at this. So what's going to happen from a workflow perspective, you notice these different colors. As I start working an order through the process, you know, it starts as a new order here when it comes across from SXE or A+. And right now this is sort of a collapsed view. You know, I can see a few things here like what the order number is and the invoice and where it's headed, you know, to this Mapco Automotive, and the time that the order was written. And these columns are all soft in terms of what we're displaying here. I could actually drill down in here and see much more detail, but for purposes of this discussion, I really want to talk about order statuses. So this particular customer did not have a warehouse management system, but it was important to them to really keep up with how much time was being spent on putting loads together and who did it for QC, QA type purposes. So in their case, they would scan a couple of these orders or one of these orders at a time. You know, and in this case, they would scan essentially a badge that says, okay, Dave's going to start, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and he starts picking this first order, and he finishes picking it, and the next thing that happens is he scans that order again, and now that thing is finished, and the load status is changed to load built, and automatically it comes to load built. That was the way they want to describe it, and that was the color that they chose. Then the dispatcher, effectively what he's going to do is he might take 1, 2, 3 of these different orders together, and he might decide to manually combine these things together to go out on a trip. In the case of this particular customer, this is most of their business is hotshot. So he might grab these 3, put them together, and they've chosen to call this next status dispatched, which effectively means I've taken these 3 orders, I've put them on a truck, I've combined them together, I've uploaded those things to either a box that's loaded or located permanently in the truck, or to a phone that my driver here, John Needham, is going to take out and take on delivery. So as soon as my driver leaves the yard and the GPS kicks in, this thing is going to go en route. So we're going to have the ability to actually create a route that I can see on the screen and see whether that truck is actually following that route. You know, in this particular case, I've got an expanded view here where I've opened this thing up and you can see some activity. You can see that in this case, Stanley is actually on site at this moment at Meineke Car Care, and the order was written at 10:38 and he got there at 11:13. So when he leaves, I'm going to capture this delivered time. So all of these different times elements here are going to be automatically entered into the system without me having to do anything as a byproduct of using our GPS. When I'm finished with this, I'm going to actually go to another status called returning in this particular customer's case. That's when all these orders are either on site or completely delivered. And that's going to give my dispatcher a heads up that, hey, I know that Raymond's coming back, so I better get him get busy getting another load built so I can turn Raymond around on the road. And when Raymond finally gets back, you know, I can finally mark that truck as delivered, or actually the software is going to mark that delivered automatically as part of my GPS. So that's kind of the whole notion of statuses. As I work this order through the process, it's going to automatically advance as a byproduct of the way we do business. What's key with this is that all of these statuses and colors are completely soft and user definable. So if my business changes, you know, a year from now I decide that I'm going to get into doing more backhaul work, you know, I can actually go out here and on a branch level basis I can go right out here and add a new status called backhaul, and then all of a sudden that's going to appear as a new status where I have a new backhaul that's either coming over from the ERP system, or I can click this button and create a new backhaul automatically. So statuses, the flexibility to map and mirror to your existing or new desired workflow is just a critical part of what we do. One of the other pieces is that the product has just got to be very, very simple to use. We realized and recognized early on that the drivers and dispatchers are just not computer guys. So what we've done is we've designed the system from an ease of use standpoint to be a piece of cake to run. Effectively, we use a couple different scanning technologies, either handheld scanners with a typical screen like so, or actually a kiosk type of a device that's mounted on the wall that you know, you've seen at Target for price checks and things like this. So essentially the way this works, because of that SXE and A+ integration, we've got orders that are already in the DQ order delivery tracking system. So when I scan those orders, they're going to be recognized. So in this case, here's order 24500. This guy's going out to Ashton Woods already, and I know that. And the system knows that because we scan that barcode, you know, that's coming off of the ticket. The next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to scan a driver, you know, for this particular trip. And the next thing that'll happen is I'm going to actually put this boom truck out there. One of the nice things is both of these badges, by the way, are produced by the DQ system. So as you get new drivers, as you get new vehicles, you can go right in and ask the software to actually produce these things for you. So once this is put into the system and set up for delivery, my driver is going to walk across the parking lot, he's going to jump in this boom truck, and the next thing he's going to be presented with here is he's going to be presented with a Garmin, an optional Garmin that's in his vehicle. And he'll come up and he'll hit this dispatch button. He'll be presented with a couple of other options. We have the ability to send him text messages here, but he's going to go in and he's going to create or push this button that says My Stops, and lo and behold, there's the Ashton Woods first stop, and he hits that button, and the next thing is, here's the confirmation. Is that where you're headed? Yep, that's where I'm going. And then I'm going to get my typical Garmin directions: turn left, turn right, you've arrived, and I'm there. So conceptually, the idea with this is we may not have to have Garmin in every single vehicle, although we could. But for our new drivers, it's a great way to make sure our guys are productive day one as far as getting to a delivery. It just doesn't get much easier than that. No key work at all done through scanning in the Garmin devices or phones. The other piece that we're looking to do is we're really looking to put some tools into the dispatcher's hands to make him much more effective. So in that little example there where I had that one sales order that I was scanning, one of the other options I have is to turn on a feature that says, go out, look at all the other orders that are in the system that are going in the same general delivery area that I could take at the same time that would fit in a box truck or fit in a flatbed or fit, in a Hyundai Accent, and push those basically to the dispatcher's screen so that he can make better combination decisions. One of the other pieces here is the ability to eliminate cross-cover with the ODT system. And when I talk about cross-cover, I've got a great story here. We have a customer that's in the Minneapolis area. They're part of the GMS Gypsum Management Supply Group. It's a group of I believe it's close to 50 or so locations, but Mike is responsible for 7 of these locations in the Minneapolis metropolitan area. And the locations are probably no more than 20-25 miles or so apart, scattered around the Minneapolis area. In their particular case, they did do about 15,000 deliveries per year, and Mike had figured that essentially 5% of those deliveries were cross-cover type situations where branch A was delivering into branch B's territory, and I was driving unnecessarily across town when I had a branch right next door, that branch B could have done the delivery. So in their case, the 5% of 15,000, that's 750 deliveries, 750 times a year I was making that mistake. And again, with a boom truck at $4 an hour and 2 crew members, it doesn't take much to add up. In their case, it was about $75,000 a year. So to illustrate, one of the tools we have to keep that from happening, this is an example here around the Washington, D.C. area where I've got 2 particular locations. I've got a location in Washington and one in Fredericksburg. And in this case, I've gone out and I've asked the software, hey, go out, look for today's date on Wednesday, and find all of the orders out here, in these 2 locations. And if I look closely here, I can see that I've got an opportunity potentially to do some consolidation here. I could select all 4 of those orders, assuming I had stock in Fredericksburg to handle this, right mouse click, and then say, you know what, I'm going to service all of these things out of the Fredericksburg location, or vice versa, service them all out of the Washington location. What's the benefit? The benefit is I'm making 1 trip here to do these deliveries. I'm not making 2 trips. The benefit is that we're working smarter, not harder. Last thing I'll talk about here is some of the other productivity gains that are built into the system. Again, improved turn time out here when I have the ability to actually look at, on a driver-by-driver basis, what type of turn time guys have. When I look at my yard production and see what type of branch or warehouse production I have, you can see some really nice tools here. So here's a report here that I can run either by 1 or more locations. So in this case, I've actually run this for a month, between 10/22, October 22nd, and November 22nd. And I've only asked for 1 location, although I could probably, to have this make sense, would have asked for more than 1. And what I'm able to see here is exactly, what this particular branch did from a delivery perspective. how many drivers actually it took to put that work together, what my average delivery time was out there, what it cost me to take those deliveries out there on average. And this is a really key statistic here, this average orders per trip. What that really means is, based on when I have a vehicle that leaves the yard, what's the average number of sales invoices or sales orders that I'm taking out on a trip out there. And if I can increase that number, we're doing well. I mean, we can not only pay for the system, but we're going to reduce costs just dramatically out here if we can increase this number. So again, if I were to run this thing and look at it across branch locations, this is the kind of information I can get, here, where I can start comparing my locations, and I can look at, hey, branch 2 is doing a really great job. They get 2.7. Branch 1 has only got 1.5. Maybe I get these two dispatchers together, to where branch 2 can show this other guy what he's doing. My average delivery time in, say, this location, it's a like and kind branch, is more in one location than another. It just gives me a good way to kind of look at things. Here's a great barometer here. What's it costing me? This is the margin coming across from SXE or A+. After I do this delivery and make this delivery effort, I'm going to spend some of that margin, some of those margin dollars. What's it costing me branch by branch to make those deliveries? So those are the kind of things managerially that we can do within the product to get better. So one of the key tenets from a design perspective we had when we developed ODT was to really improve customer service within the organization. When we go into most organizations today, this is the typical diagram of what we see. We have a dispatcher in the center here who's getting tugged on by the customer, calling in, wanting to know where his order is, or perhaps by the salesperson that's calling and saying, hey, did you get that order? I need to call the customer and get that scheduled right away. So we've essentially got this hourglass effect where everything really has to go through dispatch. What we're looking to do is we're looking to provide the dispatcher with a new tool called order delivery tracking so that he can become really part of the team and help our organization by replacing him in the center in this hourglass effect to more of a managerial role to working with us from a dispatch perspective. So we're doing that through a variety of ways, and when we talk about communications here, I'm talking about external communications, for instance. So I've got the ability to create a series of triggers based on events. So perhaps it's when a delivery goes out. It's maybe when a delivery is going to be late. That I can spawn these emails, not to every customer, but certainly to some key customers within my organization. Perhaps what you want to do is publish the status of these orders on the web. So we've got a web portal that you can tie to your existing website today where customers can log in and see exactly where they stand. Let's not forget the dispatcher with internal communications. One of the key benefits with this, when you think about the hundreds of deliveries that the average dispatcher is going to be sending, or maybe thousands of deliveries that he's going to be sending, he's not got time to find a needle in a haystack. So with ODT, before this guy ever leaves, Charles, and truck 174, I have an expectation of how long that trip's going to take. And this one looks like it was about a 54-minute trip. So rather than my dispatcher having to dig out and spend time, waste time, figuring out which orders are in trouble, I'm going to push him, in this case, these 6 orders right here, and I can see this one is 10 minutes late, making my dispatcher really look like a champ and protecting myself to make sure this customer doesn't get frustrated because Charles is late. One of the last concepts I want to talk to you about is the managerial objectives of the order delivery tracking system. And the best way to explain that is to talk about activity-based costing. What does it cost me on an order-by-order, customer-by-customer basis to do business? And that's one of the things that ODT is going to give me, is those managerial metrics to be able to measure how we're doing. Here's a great way to illustrate this, where I look at a customer productivity account report, and I can see that Ariston Holmes, he's run me out there 22 times. I've sold them $76,000 worth of stuff in between June 2nd and July 2nd, and it's cost me almost $12,000, $11,933. So effectively, we're paying this guy to take our product. Another example is looking at deliveries versus returns by customers. Returns are a no-win situation. They're required for me to do great customer service, but I can easily get taken advantage of here. So this is going to give me great visibility to manage my return business to make sure I'm not being taken advantage of. If I look down here at Newmark Homes, here's a great example where I've gone out there 22 times and then he's called me back 12 times to take product back. So I can look at what it's cost me, almost $1,000 to deal with those returns where I've made no money. Great productivity tools from a manager. Let's summarize what we've talked about in the presentation. The first thing is, from an operational standpoint, regardless of which area of the business we look at, whether it's the yard, whether it's dispatch performance, whether it's driver performance, or the whole branch overall performance, we're going to give you the tool sets, the metrics that you can go out and actually start to manage this whole process through a series of tools which we illustrated in the presentation. You're going to look for improved customer service out there. You're not going to be that kind of company when the phone rings and it's, well, we'll call you back and we don't know. You guys are going to have a tremendous lift in your customer service capabilities, because within a couple of mouse clicks I'm going to be able to key in the customer's name or the order number, and anybody in the company, not just dispatch, is going to be able to tell that customer, sir, your order is 2.5 miles out. There was one stop ahead of you, and it looks like we'll have that to you here in the next 5 minutes. You're going to also look for a nice reduction in costs over time with this system. With the dispatch tools that we're going to provide, your dispatcher is going to be more successful with combination decisions, getting more product out the door with less drivers and less equipment overall. You're going to look at your drivers getting lost less. You're going to look at that whole culture of accountability where we now have guys that know that we're looking at how they're doing from a performance standpoint, and they're just simply going to work harder for us. And all this is going to be wrapped around with our GPS tools that we provide and the tie-in with your A+ and SXE system. Being able to tie that GPS data in with the order, so we have this whole expectation in terms of how long that delivery should take, how many miles versus what actually happened. So I really appreciate the opportunity to make the presentation to you folks today. Look forward to hearing back from you. Feel free to drop me an email or pick up the phone and call me. We can take a deeper dive, set up a go-to-meeting, and actually take a look at how the application would fit your specific needs. So thanks so much for listening, and have a terrific day.